In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. Dear audience, this is Language and Linguistics Online. I am Dr. Khurram Shahzad from National University of Modern Languages, Islamabad. Today, I intend to talk about the scope of translation studies. Besides, I will be giving you a brief history of translation, especially after 1950 onwards. Translation plays a very important role in interhuman communication. Through translation, we can cross the borders and we can come to know how human beings they are living their lives. What are their likes and dislikes? What do they wear? What is their culture? All these things, when we are reading the literature of some other countries, which is translated, we can easily understand. And in this way, translation plays a crucial role in interhuman communication. Since 2015, when Jeremy Monday produced its third edition, now people are spending $46.5 billion every year in translation. And why they are doing it? Because they have their own purposes. And there are certain other organizations like European organization. It is doing translation in 24 different languages. No doubt through movies, we can also understand the culture of the people, the likes and dislikes of the people. But translation also plays a very important role. It was James Home who produced a very seminal research article on translation studies in 1972. And it was widely available to the people in 1988. In this paper, he talked about translation studies as a subject. And after that, of course, translation studies was introduced in different universities of the world. In Pakistan, we have seen that the Gujarat University offers masters and PhDs in translation studies. Recently, Open University in Islamabad has also opened up the Department of Translation Studies, and it is offering MS in Translation Studies. Namal has also started the Department of Translation Studies, and it is giving or offering English besides 15 different other major languages that students can learn. They can choose from these languages, and in this way they can get a job later on in translation studies. So these days, universities are offering the programs of translation studies to the students, and students are doing their MPhils and PhDs in translation. According to Jeremy Monday, there are 4 very visible ways in which translation studies has become more prominent. For example, so these days there are departments and they are offering translation studies to the students. Secondly, the past decades have also seen a proliferation, increase of conferences, books and journals on translation in many languages. For example, we can see different journals like Babel, Meta, TTR and Perspectives, and they offer the researchers an opportunity to publish their work in them. Thirdly, the number of publications has increased, so has the demand for general and analytical instruments. So these days, various apps are available. They can help you to translate from one language into the other language. Google Translator is also available. Though students, they are doing research these days, because Google Translator is not very efficient. It commits many mistakes, but maybe it is because it is free. And the apps which are demanding money from the people, they are working quite proficiently and effectively, and they are translating from one language into the other language. At the same time, we should also remember these days Routledge, Cambridge, Oxford, multilinguals, Palgrave, they are offering and publishing various books, rather series of books on translation. So one can find so many books in translation. One can find so many journals and conferences which are held everywhere, every year throughout the world these days. And lastly, international organizations have also prospered. So in front of us these days we have got Canadian Association for Translation Studies. We have got Translation Studies, European Society of Translation Studies in Vienna, European Association for Studies in Screen Translation in Cardiff, and American Translation and Interpreting Studies Association in Kent. So this is how we can understand the scope of translation studies, which is very broad right now. The second part of this video is about its brief history with special reference to 1950s onwards. The practice of translation, when we look at how people, they were teaching the students, they were making use of grammar translation method. And they thought that with the help of grammar translation method, students can be taught the second language or the foreign language. So when we look at Pakistan, so still in Pakistan, particularly in government schools, students, they are taught through grammar translation method. And there is a specific question on translation in our matriculation, FA or FSC exam, and even in our BA exam. So much so, if you see the paper of CSS, it also contains a question on translation. So in the third world countries, still people, they make use of grammar translation method to teach a foreign language to the learners. Of course, in the first world, when people, they started speaking against grammar translation method, they introduced various other methods like the direct method, and these days communicative language teaching method is very in vogue in the first world. No doubt, we also use communicative language teaching in our universities. Secondly, we should remember in the USA in the 1960s, starting in Iowa and Princeton, literary translation was promoted by the translation workshop concept. So previously, people were reading the literature of the center. And in center, we have got the UK and the American nation. So of course, people thought that when the people from the periphery, they started to attack the, principles of the center and they produced their own literature. So the people of the center, they thought that they should compare and contrast the literature of the center with the literature of the periphery. So in this way, their literature was translated. And of course, they also produced literature in English language as well. For example, from Pakistan, many authors, they have produced literature in English. In Afghanistan, in Africa, so people, they have produced literature in English. So in their English departments, the comparative literature subject, it was taught to the students. And translation studies took help from these subjects as well. In the departments of linguistics, we have got contrastive linguistics, where they try to understand the two languages. For example, if we compare and contrast English language with Urdu language or with Arabic language. So I am a teacher. In Urdu we say, मैं उस्ताद हूँ. In Arabic we say, ana ustaz. And if we analyze the Arabic sentence, there is no copular verb in ana ustaz. So without copular verb, these two nouns, they are working as a sentence and they are conveying the meaning. In English, we have got singular and plural. In Urdu, we have got singular and plural. In Arabic, we have got singular, double, and then plural, tasniya. So their conjugation, verb conjugation, and inflection systems, they are different. So if you compare and contrast, you can understand that whenever translation is carried out, there is some kind of translation loss because the languages are different. So with the help of contrastive linguistics, translation studies also took help. And after 1950s, first of all, from grammar translation method, then secondly, from comparative literature, and then from contrastive linguistics, translation took help. Thank you very much.